Hi, good morning, friends. Very recently, I received a lot of questions related to joining the Indian Air Force from my Instagram fans. And moment we have some kind of failure or a rejection from SSB, a lot of people feel highly rejected. If you really want to join Indian Armed Forces, you must never give up. So looking at very many failures or rejections, I thought to bring out a real life story of Air Cmde Chattopadhyay, which is going to cross all your imagination. If somebody wants to really know what means struggle or what means rejection and how one should face those kind of challenges, I think you have to hear Air Cmde Chattopadhyay. So if you have patience and really ready to hear a very, very inspiring story, then you must switch off everything. I'm very confident that after hearing this particular interview or the story, your definition of struggle is going to change for the lifetime. So with that, and on behalf of all my aviation fans, I welcome Air Cmde Chattopadhyay for this particular episode.
Hi, Joe. Thanks very much for honoring me to your channel and inviting me in Instagram to know something about my childhood and how I could grow in the Air Force. Well, the journey began in my childhood. I studied in the remote village of Jagannathpur. That was my birthplace. So first 5 years of my primary school, I studied there. And of course, I used to be the topper. Thereafter, having completed the primary school, I had to upgrade to the next high school called higher secondary school, where I studied from 6 to in those days, class 11 was the higher secondary. When I was in class 8, I admired one ex-flight sergeant of Indian Air Force who happened to be in my locality, Mr. Bhattacharya, Flight Sergeant Bhattacharya. Of course, he is no more today. He used to see my school results every time I used to get my result. Then he used to guide me and advise me, Air Force is a great organization. You should, you must think of joining Air Force. This was one input while I was progressing my 9 and 10. My mother used to tell some stories about her own uncle, maternal uncle Mamaji, who used to be a colonel doctor in Burma in those days in Second World. Hence, I again got a different kind of encouragement to join military as an officer. Third input came from my own Mamaji. My Bade Mamaji used to be in army as Subedar Major. Whenever he used to come home, I used to go meet them. I used to see his style of working, his style of managing things. Absolutely crisp, well disciplined, structured in his thinking, structured in his action. And all these factors forced me, rather, to think in that line that how can I join Air Force? Otherwise, I used to see aeroplanes flying almost 30,000 feet above our head. And like village kids, we used to see, look, there's an aeroplane and there's living jets, look, there is a rocket going and all that. But then, as I was learning science, Newton's third law, and application in rocket, jet engines, etc., all these part of my science studies, I learned that yes, Air Force is a good organization. Why can't I? And more so, I although had an inclination to learn engineering, but my father didn't have enough money to support me for engineering. And same is the case with for normal graduation. So I had to opt for my own livelihood for my studies, future studies, at the same time to grow and fulfill my dreams. So at this stage, as I completed my higher secondary in 1976, I thought of deciding to go away from village because I had to get into a different kind of environment, a cultural environment, and a more educated environment. So I joined an apprentice training in Fertilizer Corporation of India. Basically, this was a transition, but I never knew that I'll be successful in a year that I'll be joining Air Force. So in those days, I thought that, okay, let me at least reach Durgapur, which is far 25 kilometers away from my village, and it is in big industrial town in West Bengal in those days. It was very famous, like you have the steel plant, and you have so many factories and plants, and it is socially very active, educationally active. I decided that let me park myself into the Fertilizer Corporation of India. At the same time, think of joining Air Force. Luckily, I could see some advertisement and applied.
Sir, before you joined or you moved to Durgapur in the fertilizer company, had you ever seen any aeroplane before coming to that city?
Yeah, yeah. Like Kalaikunda is actually aerial distance wise, it must be 70, 80 kilometers from my place.
Okay.
So some aeroplanes used to fly overhead, and especially like in 71, in 71 war, we could see some activities because that is hardly, I was just 12 odd years age.
Okay.
So I used to see some kind of, fighter planes. And my father told me some story that there was a crash in the pre-Second World War. One aeroplane, some British pilot was
Okay.
flying an aircraft, and it got shattered. And I saw the planes in 71 moving around here and there. Maybe, I don't know. Then I didn't know Kalaikunda, I didn't know Bagdogra. Probably
Okay.
they were moving from north to South Bengal or across, whatever.
Okay.
So all these actually influenced me that yes, probably there is something more in my life. As I completed my higher secondary, I parked myself in the Fertilizer Corporation of India and started my training. At the same time, whatever leisure hours I had, I could use for improving my GK. I used to go to library, learn different books, improve my English because purely I was from Bengali medium school. But yes, English we had a subject by itself with
Okay.
200 marks paper, two papers in higher secondary, and I did well also. But that was not sufficient for pure English communication because in village nobody speaks in English.
Okay.
But but in Fertilizer Corporation, lucky I was because all my instructors, all the lectures and classes were delivered in English.
Okay.
So this was a turning point as far as the communication skill is concerned.
Okay.
So and luckily within some 5, 6 months time, I could see some advertisement. I applied, and of course, there's a long procedure for Air Force. The application goes for vetting, then general, checking of the documents. After vetting the documents, the call later comes for written test. So there are 4, 5 days written test I had to appear, and after the written test, there's to be medical, and then wait for the joining instruction. So this process almost took another 5, 6 months, and by this time it was 1997,
Okay.
1977 August. I got the joining instruction to join in today's MTI Tambaram, and those days it used to be number 2 ground training school, number
Okay.
2 GTS Tambaram.
Okay.
So I joined as an engine fitter, started my training, and while we used to go in flight to our classroom after the morning drill, we used to see the HF
SC2. SC2. S
as well as
in
Kiran
this.
were
Yeah.
landing because that is the flying instructors school. Instructors were getting trained and upgrade into their skills of flying training. So we
Okay.
never knew all that details, what is going on, but then I could see very closely what is an Air Force.
Okay.
So that's the time I thought, that yes, beautifully looking, and what a beautiful personality of the people as they get down and walk on the street. So I thought that yes, why not me? Why not me? And this question triggered my career there.
So, sir, when you reached to Mechanical Training Institute, that is in Tamram, this was for the very first time you saw the aeroplanes from a very close quarter. And knowing Hindustan trainer, which is HT2 or Kiran Mark II or Kiran aircraft, which is made from HL, they look very great when you're standing very close to guard room, where a lot of flights come in a formation and they are stopped because of a very low level of flying area. So generally, all those people who are undergoing training, all those people come and stop when the aeroplane are about to land, and they really pass through overhead from a very close quarter. So do you think after watching those aeroplanes and that particular activity, that inspired you to become pilot?
So it's absolutely true because I never had any idea in totality about the complete Air Force, what an Air Force does. But then the initial 6 months of training, as used to go over flights in the morning overhead, we could see the Kirans or HC2s landing, or sometimes they're taking off from these directions. That really actually triggered me that look, if I have to grow in the Air Force, I should be in this aircraft, at least for purpose of training, and subsequently we will participate in the role of Indian Air Force with a greater participation. And uh, so as the training progressed, I applied because there are provisions in the training institute that the trainee can apply for joining in the flying branch.
Okay.
So I applied. Like me, few others also applied. But when our applications went all the way to command for waiting, somehow uh, the things were not accepted. They were saying that let the trainees complete and go to their operating units, and from there they will have ample opportunities and they will have age till at least 21, and they should be able to complete because most of them are just young at 18 and a half years age. So they will have enough of opportunity, let them complete their training and go to the training institute. So I passed out again with my laurels as usual and joined the 31 Squadron Jodhpur. That was in 1978 December.
Okay, that was on which aircraft, sir?
Marut HF-24.
Okay, HF-24, very famous Indian fighter.
Twin engine aircraft. And again, the moment I had seen the Kirans, the HC2s landing. Now I am seeing the aircraft very close. I'm touching the aeroplane. I'm moving. I'm getting inside the cockpit to set the controls related to the engine system as an engine fitter. Then refueling, set the fuel quantity, all these, and then you could see on the tarmac how the aircraft are approaching for a dummy dive, or how they're approaching are passing over the runway at a very very low height. So this again, you know, gave me a lot of encouragement. Yes, this is the role of actually a fighter pilot, and I think now it's time for me to apply. So I applied.
Here, I would like to highlight for the sake of very young audience that if you look at so far, whatever journey Air Cmde Chattopadhyay had, the very important thing was that he met a flight sergeant. And
Yes.
that was a turning point. I would say probably that flight sergeant could be a role model for him, because he saw something special in Chatto sir, and he asked him to join Indian Air Force. So that is the first turning point. And the second thing is, you may come from any background, but moment you start interacting with the world, like it happened in his case, like he landed up to MTI, wherein he saw a lot of flying activities. And from there, when he moved on as engine fitter to a operating unit, that too also in a very, very famous historical aircraft of the Indian Air Force, named HF-24. People used to call Pride of India. He had a great opportunity to see all the flying activities, and probably, I would no, not probably, I will say surely, the environment changed him to see a dream which was never possible through his village life. But moment his environment got changed, he got totally inspired, and that is how he thought to become a fighter pilot.
Well, uh, as in Jodhpur, there had been 3 operating squadrons together. One operating squadron was training the young pilots passing out from Air Force Academy and converting them into HF-24 number 10 squadron then.
Okay.
And the 2 operational squadron were 31 and 220 squadron. We used to see the roles of 31 and 220 who had gone on the different detachments in the forward bases, understood the role of Air Force, and then understood in totality what the Air Force is. There are branches, there are different jobs and activities, because as a trainee, airman trainee at MTI Tambram, I had just a myopic view, very limited idea about Air Force. But as I entered into Air Force Station Jodhpur, and huge station, lot of fighter aircraft used to come for different exercises there. And that is the time I learned the Air Force wider picture. So, as the dream was there, and I had to apply. Applied, the commanding officer took my interview. He was satisfied. My application was forwarded to command. Command accepted, forwarded to air headquarters, and finally it went to SSB, and the call letter came from SSB. That was in 1979.
Okay.
79 October, I was called to Dehradun, number 1 Air Force Selection Board. Pilot's Aptitude Test was the first test, because I'm supposed to be going for GDP. In those days, people used to call GDP.
General
And
duty
now,
pilot.
of course, now the branch name is actually FP, Flying Pilot. So the first test used to be the Pilot's Aptitude Test, where there used to be 2 parts, the theoretical parts like aircraft attitude test, meter testing, and all that. I passed the phase 1. Many people got shunted out there itself, filtered. Then gone to the second stage, an actual EABT Pilot's Aptitude Battery Test, where there are 2 parts again. One is a drum control test, and one is a light control test. Light control test with the actual cockpit sitting with the flying controls, and you have to control the dot to keep it in the center of the screen. You have your stick on the right hand, and you have the pedals on the left and right. Both the tests went well. Out of the 3 sequences, the best chance was taken, and in fact, I cleared the Pilot's Aptitude Test, and thereafter, I have undergone the remaining part of the SSB, like the psychologist tests, the GTO's task, and the interviewers program. Finally, I got selected, and from there itself, I was sent to AFCME, Central Medical Establishment in Delhi, for my final medical. This medical also went on for 5-6 days, and it was a medical I have seen. It started from nail to hair, everything and every bit of my body, externally and internally, including my brain, how my brain responds to different kind of lights, different kind of sounds, all these reactions. Well, I had no infirmity, no difficulties. I had cleared the medical, and I was waiting for joining instruction. My squadron was happy, my CO was happy, my adjutant. In fact, my adjutant, subsequently, the moment I got my call letter to join Air Force Academy, my adjutant, Flight Lieutenant James Sebastian, of course, he was very senior when he retired from Air Force. I requested him, sir, when he was going for flying, and I used to, see off in the morning. After he came back from flying, sir, kindly give me 2 minutes into the cockpit to explain what happens in actual flying, because I have no idea about flying, and now I'm going for flying training. Well, he was very enthusiastic and thrilled that from his squadron, an airman is now going for flying training, and this is the pride of the squadron. So he took some time. In fact, for 2-3 days, he called me separately after his flying, once inside the hangar, once outside on the tarmac, and then said, "Look, this is what it is." And after that, I'll not teach you about flying. Your flying will be taught by your flying instructors. So concentrate there. Whatever he says, you just obey. He is your God. I said, "Yes, sir."
This was in
This
which?
is in 1979, December and 1980 January, I joined Air Force Administrative College for the pre-flying training.
So here I would like to ask you, sir, that if you see your journey as engine fitter and landing up to a flying squadron, and thereafter going for GDP test, clearing SSB, and finally landing up for your final training as a pilot. If you see your dream actually became true, or your dream of becoming a pilot right from your MTI days till it got converted into reality, was a very, very quick thing, if I really say. So how did you feel? Means you would have never imagined that right from your school days, suddenly you will land up in MTI, and within a very short span of time, you would become a fighter pilot.
See, actually, the entire training, initial training was 18 months. Of course, it is not in the same style of as is done in NDA, but it was more technical training as well as the ground training or drill, physical activities, etc. In the initial 1.5 year in MTI Tambram, and thereafter that 1 year in fighter squadron gave me exposure to grow as a footballer. I used to play football and participate in the squadron activities, participate in the morning flying, night flying, all activities. So this 2.5 years plus the initial backup, the school period, if I leave entirely, that actually in 2.5 years of my entry into the Air Force has landed me into the flying training. And this was a great achievement, I thought. And of course, it was my sincerity, because many people have appeared SSBs from different squadrons. I used to, go to the seniors who have gone earlier in SSBs. I learned their failures, why they have failed, or what was the problem. I could understand. So it was a very hard work in those, especially that 1 year of my 31 squadron stay, that I have to crack the SSB and I must come out with my laurels. And it happened.
Okay.
Of course, because it's my hard work. One side is my hard work. Of course, the luck also has to be, with someone. So I don't say entirely it's luck, but then it is purely, luck cannot come if you, lie on bed. If you lie on bed and start dreaming something, the dream doesn't be true, doesn't come true.
True.
So one has to work for it. I worked for it. And okay, my dream became true at that point of time.
Okay.
And I joined Air Force. Now Air Force Administrative College, almost 5.5 months training, rigorous training, huge physical activity. In fact, I remember entire Coimbatore city, we had to run complete the round of Coimbatore city in 45 to 50 minutes.
Okay.
Like horses, we ran. Physical activities, any kind, be it gymnastic, be it running, jumping, playing. One side is that, the other side is actual pre-flying training as an officer. One side is the pre-flying aspect, the other side is the Air Force aspect, because you are going to be an officer of Indian Air Force. So you have to learn Air Force rules, laws, regulations, Air Force Act, and the roles of different people in Air Force, even the accounting, because one day you will be boss of a station. So all this kind of ground training was going on parallelly. Preparation of aerodynamics, meteorology, flight controls, all these were also taught, and I passed out again with my laurels from Air Force Administrative College as the best flight cadet of the course.
Good. Good.
And within a month time, I had to join elementary flying school Bidar. That was the first phase of flying. Actual flying would start in Bidar, 1980, June, towards the third week or so. Well, joined there after preliminary familiarization, and that this is the time now you are meeting your counterparts. There are almost 65 of them coming from NDA. My good course mates, Flight Cadet Pradhan, Flight Cadet Nambiar, who retired as Air Marshal Nambiar and Air Marshal Pradhan. They were my course mates.
Okay.
In Nambi joined from Air Force Academy. Of course, Pradhan was with me in Air Force Administrative College because he joined from CDS, while
Okay.
Nambi came from ND. So all these people came and we started flying. Almost we are close to 90 people, 65 plus we are 25 from Air Force Administrative College. So 90 people joined in elementary flying school Bidar, divided into 4 different squadrons. 2 squadrons used to fly in the morning, while 2 squadrons used to fly in the afternoon. So if we are flying in the morning, we had ground subjects classes in the afternoon. If you're flying in the afternoon, then your ground subject classes are in the morning. So there's the kind of distribution, and it is well organized, well, nicely laid out procedures. And every instructor has got about 3 students, and some senior instructors only take 2 cadets. But generally, most of the young flight lieutenants, they are given 3 cadets. And invariably, it is almost the ratio of 2:1 because the number of cadets in proportion is almost 2:1.
Okay.
Because 2 cadets of NDA and 1 cadet from Air Force Administrative College put together under 1 instructor. Now once the flying starts, it depends upon 2 things. One, the procedures are well laid out, but the instructor will teach and the cadet will learn. It is both ways. It is not only the somebody fails to learn, but it could be equally that an instructor is coming fresh for the first course. He is handling cadets. He is handling cadets. Now just imagine a teacher joining the school and started teaching physics or chemistry in the first lecture or in the first 6 months. And imagine a seasoned teacher, compare with another seasoned teacher who had been teaching for the last 3-4 years or 5 years in the same school or same subject, same classes. His confidence or his capabilities of handling or his way of handling, I don't say capability, his way of handling the cadets will be different. So, unfortunately, I was unlucky to be, with one of the fresh instructor who just passed out from FIS Tambaram. And some of them had been very lucky to be with senior instructors who had already passed out 2-3 courses. I was thinking that, yes, I'm learning well, but sometimes the instructor, so that is a way of life, because flying is a very, very risky game. It is not like a ground subject that you can learn 10 times in position and 10 times you can do, because you are in the air for about 45 minutes or 50 minutes sorting. In that 50 minutes, you have to learn what the instructor wants and what is already structured in the training module. So the scope of mistake or the scope of repeating, give me a chance, sir, give me a chance, it doesn't work in air. You can do any amount on the ground, but not in air.
Yes.
So the demand of training and learning are both very, very high. Anyway, I was coping well. And in between my instructor.
Sir, do you think the engine fitter training or whatever experience you had before had helped you anytime during the training? Do you think so?
Yes, of course. At least when the other cadets were learning about the engine, I know everything about the engine.
Okay.
Because I have handled the jet engine. I have learned the entire piston engine because HT2 works on a piston engine and propeller.
Yes.
In theory, I've seen the practicals. Only thing I didn't fly. But
Okay.
today I'm flying when the instructor is to explain the aerodynamics of propeller, the aerodynamics or the thermal engineering aspect or the thermodynamic aspect of a piston engine. I know I've already learned that.
Yes.
So that was easy go for me. So
Okay.
ground subjects were never difficult for me.
Okay.
Never difficult because at the pre-flying training, we have already done quite a bit. And now the instructors teaching. I had good amount of exposure and learning in my Tambaram training institute. So with
Yes.
that, ground subjects were actually, not difficult. But yes, when it comes to practical flying, learning and understanding because I have never, Chow, I have never driven, I've never had a motorbike or a scooter. Forget about just other than bicycle and
Hmm.
bullock cart. I
Yeah.
had driven bullock cart in my village.
Yeah.
I had driven bicycle. I've ridden bicycle.
Yeah. And you were flying aeroplanes. Hmm.
And now straight away into the cockpit.
Yes.
It's a hell of a lot of difference, man.
Hmm. Yes.
Because after all, you are handling power controls.
Hmm.
They call it power.
Hmm.
You are moving your left hand and the engine is,
Okay.
roaring. And the
Okay.
propeller is just picking up speed. At the
So
same
during
time, as the propeller rotates in one particular direction, there is an anti-torque reaction. The nose of the propeller is moving in other direction. Quickly, your leg has to move. So this
counter.
kind of, is a part of training. Well, my instructor used to tell us to learn. And, well, things were going fine. In between, during the course, I think for a week or 10 days, my instructor had to go somewhere, probably a leave or some emergency. He was not available. So in those 10 days, so flying doesn't stop because it's a structured program and it has to finish at a particular date.
Yeah.
Everybody have to complete their flying training, and after that, the last 2 weeks or so, it's a parade
Yes.
and wind up.
Hmm.
So in our case, those 7-10 days, we 3 cadets were distributed by to 3 different instructors. I remember replacement instructor was Flight Lieutenant Bora. Um, and he used to be a MiG-21 pilot. I remember. As a fighter pilot, of course, he was very, very smart to enter into a spin, enter into spin, look like this. Stall, enter, tuck. Okay, first one, count. Number 1 turn, number 2 turn, number 3 turn, okay, pull up. So I used to go. And in fact, that was sometimes, a personal touch also helps in quick pickup
Yeah.
than a bullshit.
Hmm.
Second instructor was to be a Squadron of Malhotra from Canberra.
Hmm.
He also flew me or trained me for 2-3 sorties, and 1 or 2 sorties were flown by RCJ Banerjee, Squadron leader RCJ Banerjee. He used to be the CFI. Uh, so that's how in those 10 days we managed. But subsequently, when I was closing towards the end of the flying training,
During your flying training, what was the most enjoyable, maneuver which you enjoyed the most?
oh, if it is enjoyable,
Everything?
well, uh, there is no maneuver,
Did
no
you?
maneuver, and no maneuver which is actually enjoyable in the flying training days. Yes, when you are fully trained and fully operational in a particular type of aircraft, then you can enjoy all this kind of activities. But in a training, you are learning perfection. You want to do a steep turn, you do not know where is are the wings okay? Is the radar balanced with the ailerons? And all these kind of combinations you got to think. Your mind is continuously working, and your instructor is shouting, "Look, idiot! This is not happening. That is not happening. Correct it. Come back." So hardly, this is more than enjoyment. It was actually
It
a
is.
very, very tough and tight
It is.
period in
It
the
is a.
air because
It is performance. It is
yeah, it is
performance.
performance, it is learning because you have to learn in that slot of 45 minutes
Okay.
because and then you can do any amount of ground and chair flying in your room or sitting on a chair and practice, but then that does not give you that's exactly the same feeling which was what is happening in the air.
Yes.
Yes, but
Hmm.
if you tell me the initial days, the difficult and tough exercise was, of course, spin.
Spin. Yeah.
Because many people, the many cadets have entered into fatals by forgetting to recover or forgetting to take timely action to recover, and then they lost height and hit the ground.
Yeah.
So this was, of course, although adequate corrections are given, adequate training is given that you should go to adequate height, and if you operate at that speed and try to rotate the aircraft by three times in a three particular spiral, downward spiral, and then you will be losing so much of height. So by then, still you should be having at least 5 to 6,000 feet ground clearance so that you can pull up and clear the ground well. So this was, I think, one of the difficult part, but otherwise, yeah, if you say interesting, yes, very fast. One or two sorties were very interesting because your instructor is flying and you are a passenger.
Okay. Yeah.
You
True.
are a passenger, and that too, you are flying for the first time in your life, man.
Yes.
I've never sat in the aeroplane. I never bought a ticket and flown in the civil airlines. Now my
Okay.
instructor, as a pilot, my instructor is sitting behind me and telling, "Look, he's whistling, he's singing, and no, I'm enjoying
Yeah.
with the hood open in the downwind across the downwind. Very nice.
Okay.
That was the part. But subsequently, actually, when the training, sport training started, that is the time. Actually, it is a pressure. You have to learn in a specific time slot. You got to cope with that time frame. Otherwise, okay, fine. You spend 200 hours on the same exercises, like as you do one mathematics for 10 times.
Yes, sir, if you see on HC2 kind of an aircraft, there's no ejection seat. So actually on an aircraft like HC2, you have to bail out. And at that
Yes,
point in time, when you were undergoing training, if you really see a lot of people at 11th hour, if you don't bail out properly, there can be very serious consequences. So this
absolutely.
particular bailing out thing, certainly you would have been taught. But
Yes.
what do you have to say about this procedure of bailing out?
Okay, absolutely fine. And as a part of first day before entering into the cockpit, when you are when instructor taking you around the aircraft, he is firstly sitting inside and explaining the things. And what you got to do, you are carrying your pack, your parachute pack on your shoulder,
Yeah.
at your back, and
Yes.
you are moving along with the parachute pack, doing your external checks, standing when the instructor is training you on the ground, without, of course, without engine running. And he has to tell, okay, now, if there's an emergency, open the hood, put the aircraft on level, open the hood, and get out. There's a step, get out and hold the aircraft with one hand. Think, look towards the trailing edge of the wing, and jump. Count 1, 2, 3, and pull the ring. You should be well clear by then. So this procedures were well told, well narrated, and in between, all emergencies are dealt every after third or fourth day, or in a week's time, some common briefing hall. So some cadets are called at random by the instructors. All cadets are sitting together. Okay, there's an emergency. Now this is the situation. Do it. Tell what. Tell me your actions or show your actions. Things like that. So it's a continuous, rubbing and polishing, and one has to be polished throughout. He has to be sharp and there has to be a continuity in his training process. Everybody cannot progress flying together. Instructor chooses out of the three cadets, number one, you will be flying today, or maybe, or number two and number three will fly tomorrow, day after tomorrow. So that is a staggered way so that instructor is not loaded for putting all the three together for the final test, towards the final test. And each of them, there is a gap so that the final assessor, maybe the chief instructor or chief flying instructor who clears for the final test, they are not loaded simultaneously. I was number three in the sequence of my instructor. Other two cadets have one cadet has cleared, but number two and three we are doing the clearance final test. At the same time, there are a few others. But in October 19 79 with our flight cadet Cherian, ex-India cadet. He was taking off. He was flying in the afternoon around 2:30, taking off. Immediately after takeoff, within 200 feet above the ground, his engine ceased, and he couldn't handle the emergency because the time was maybe too short, the height was too less, the power was not there. Uh, whatever. There are emergency procedures laid down, but the things might not have happened the way it was expected. The aircraft crashed, and the aircraft, the flight cadet got sandwiched between the two parts of the airframe structure and spotted. And we were scheduled for the tests just after that, but unfortunately, because of funeral and other process, the whole flying program got delayed by another 2, 3 days. Unfortunately, the minor mistakes or the minor errors that can be generally overlooked were not overlooked. People, by senior instructors, they got very, very serious and very, very strict not to allow any kind of scope of errors. So when I was put on test, I did my bit with best of my abilities as per the briefing. Things went well. I was given some emergency handling. I did. To me, I was satisfied that I did well. But when I came down after flying, during debrief, my chief instructor was flying with me. Chief instructor during debrief said that this was good, that part was good, this part was okay, but this part was somehow like, especially the takeoff, it was not absolutely clean and straight takeoff. HD2 is known for a snaky takeoff, we know, but still, at this stage of life, you should have had absolute straight takeoff. Your takeoff was a little snaky. And your RT procedures were fine. Emergency handling, I think you approached very, very sharply. You tried to get closer to the ground faster. Your approach should have been little shallow. And you, I think, approached very steep. But anyway, we will recommend you to meet our commandant. So at this stage, I could understand this probably will be the end of my flying, but notwithstanding, I didn't lose my senses and controls. So I controlled myself. My instructor consoled me. My CFI also consoled me that when you are going to commandant, please ask. There are scopes and provisions for giving 2, 3 hours of extension so that you can go for again a pilot test. When I went for training review board TRB by the commandant, Group Captain Duswan Singh, he was the commandant 11 flying Sukidar. He said, look, during your test, your performance has not been satisfactory by your chief instructor, and we recommend suspension from your flying training. Do you have anything to say? I said, sir, may I request for 2 hours extension so that I'll perfect whatever is the imperfections? No, if you couldn't do in so many hours of flying, I don't think you'll be able to make it. So go ahead with suspension. Do you have any other choice? I said, so may I go for navigation? Yes, you have to take a navigation test. Go and take the test tomorrow. And you are out of line. My flying career ended that point of time with that stroke of pen.
Very sad.
It was very, very unfortunate, and it was just a catastrophe. As if, entire dream of remaining in Air Force or growing in Air Force got shattered. I was grounded. Well, I took the navigation test. I did well. But unfortunately, there are problems. Uh, uh, okay, see, this is 1980 November. I'm sitting in commandant's office. My dream is shattered. I was crying heavily. In those days, I didn't have mobile or telephone. I had to send a telegram to my father and my uncle, who could only understand that I'm out of line. Well, my dream was shattered on that particular day, but I was given an option at that stage. What I would like to do now, because there are, at least before me, there were 4 or 5 ex-airmen who were also in the flying and got grounded like me.
Okay.
All of them opted to go out of Air Force
Okay.
because getting back into the rank up from flying branch to getting down to airman, it doesn't gel well, and many people cannot take that shock
Yes.
to work again in the same place with the same kind of people and same kind of job, same kind of backup from where you were been elevated and dropped down.
Yes.
So it was a very, very, crucial decision in my life, because I knew most of them had been either graduate or they were in the final year of their graduation. So they had option to go back and their parents would be, supporting for their studies.
Okay.
One odd had gone to civil flying also, because these flying hours added together and then have joined the civil flying club.
Okay.
Okay, but I didn't have this option. On the other hand, uh, there had been 10 or around 15 ex-NDA cadets who had also been grounded, because see, attrition rate in flying training is almost 40 to 50%.
Okay.
Every cadet enters into flying training, the success of his passing out is just about 50 to 60%.
Okay.
That means out of 100 people, only 50 or 60 would be finally passing out with and putting on the wings of the Air Force.
Hmm.
So at different stages, they get filtered. So I was filtered at the elementary flying stage in the first 6 months of flying itself, bad
Oh,
and sad. But in fact, I don't blame uh, Air Force at all in this, because I feel that the Air Force training was highly structured and highly organized and pure. It is conducted by the professionals in a very, very methodical way.
yeah.
Well, the things might not have gone in my favor, probably because of the circumstances. That circumstance was the crash, the fatal.
Okay.
अगर वो नहीं होता, probably, I'm sure, I could have gone through.
Okay.
But maybe God never wanted me to be a pilot. So I was advised at that stage, look for alternate option.
Okay.
But my alternate option, I didn't have anything, because ex-India cadets, they are graduate. Their government of India has spent so much of money on them. As a result, they have to be given either the first choice in the Air Force or the second choice, Army, Navy, whatever they have opted for.
Okay.
So I could understand that 5 of them have opted out for their second service. They've joined Army, passed out as Army officer, losing 6 months.
Okay.
5 of them could get in the logistics branch, because logistics branch had vacancies very limited. So
Hmm.
5 of them at that stage joined, because it is at this stage, the senior stage, advanced stage flying will also have some kind of grounding.
Hmm.
So from there also there will be some cadets will be joining for logistics branch. But the logistics branch intake is very, very limited.
Hmm.
And remaining 5, navigation branch vacancies are very, very limited, 5 to 6 per course. So
Okay.
all these vacancies were filled up by ex-India cadets.
Okay.
So in spite of being a topper from Air Force Administrative College or doing well in elementary flying school, Bidar, I could get a chance because the vacancies were filled by ex-India cadets.
Okay.
At that stage, when I was given an option, uh, there are 2 options. Will you go back to Air Force? Go back to Air Force means joining back into the same rank and working there as an airman
Okay.
or getting out of the force altogether.
Hmm.
But as I told earlier, it was a very crucial decision and there was nothing to support me
Hmm.
at my back end.
Hmm.
So I decided to join back
Hmm.
the Air Force.
Okay.
I came back to 31 Squadron.
Hmm.
The same people,
Hmm.
same squadron.
Hmm.
Maybe the commanding officer has changed by then. The adjutant has changed.
Hmm.
People learned that I had come back from flying. Some of the squadron pilots were feeling sad about it. Sometimes they used to touch me on the ground after flying when I used to receive them on the tarmac as they switched off the engine, they came out. They used to pat. But well, within 5, 6 months, I decided no, that's not the end of my life. I have to grow. Grow. I have to do something. If not flying, what next? There are other options to be Air Force officer. I have already done almost 1 year of my officer training. So I know what the life is, what the demand is, what the challenge is as an Air Force officer.
Okay.
So I thought of working, I started working. By then I'm posted to Air Force Academy, Hyderabad. This see the fate. My course mates who had been my course mates, they have already passed out and now they're flying Kirans in the advanced stage. And
Hmm.
I'm giving strap to them as a flight cadet Chattopadhyay while my course mates are the cockpit.
Okay.
Just imagine this doesn't happen. But I absorbed happily, smilingly, no grudge because they were after all my friends. Well, they are pilots today, Air Force officer. I'm an airman. But I took admission in Osmania University, Hyderabad for graduation with mathematics, applied mathematics. I started my course. My seniors, warrant officers, section commanders, they used to say, okay, maximum night duties in Koto so that he is available in daytime for his studies to go to college. So I used to spend different night duties so that my morning is off and I can go to college or do my studies. Well, this went on for almost 1.5, 2 years. And by 1983, I have become a graduate from Osmania University. By this time, I had a parallel thinking that, look, I've been MTI Tambaram as an engine and worked on the aero engine for almost 1 year in the squadron. So these 2.5 years and my diploma of mechanical engineering of through Air Force is now going to be helpful to complete engineering AMIE. And I started AMIE parallelly. AMIE is a private study, while graduation is a regular study, so no harm, no clashing. Well, the moment graduation was complete, I wrote AMI Section A examination, all papers together in one go in Hyderabad. And I passed out laurels, clearing all papers and topper of Hyderabad State Center. I got a scholarship for that from Andhra Pradesh governor.
So here I would like to highlight one thing that, in life, you will see a lot of rejections, you will see a lot of failures. But here in the case of Air Commodore Chattopadhyay, he took every failure like a challenge. This became a more burning desire. With each failure, he became much more stronger, and he actually bounced back with a bigger fire that now I can't be stopped. So I would say that anytime in life, if you have any kind of failure, you must take up that failure like a challenge. And this is what he's narrating, that he crossed all his AMI papers in one single attempt. That's a very big achievement. And that is how he got a scholarship.
By virtue of my Air Force training and working experience, I had the diploma in mechanical engineering as accepted and approved by Government of India, Ministry of Education, because the Air Force training is equivalent to diploma in mechanical engineering. So with diploma in mechanical engineering, because for me, joining a regular engineering college was very, very difficult for years, managing duties and going to the colleges. It is very,
Not
very
possible.
difficult, extremely difficult,
Not possible. Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah.
So I had I had to take my DME. With the DME, I looked for options like one is aeronautical society, aeronautical engineering privately, or mechanical engineering privately through AMI. And this was in 1984. Now,
Mm.
84, one side I'm writing the section B, the last part, the final part of engineering.
Mm.
And meanwhile, I have applied for administrative branch in the Indian Air Force
Okay.
because by now I'm a graduate. So as graduate of Osmania University with my graduation degree, once I applied, my application was accepted by Air Force. I was invited for SSB. So this time I go to number 4 AFSB Varanasi. This was sometime in June, July of 1983. Applied, the procedure goes on, and I was selected. As selected again, I went for medical. Medical was done. One side, I'm selected and ready for joining in as a cadet again in Air Force Academy for the administrative branch. The other side, I'm writing the final finishing touch, finishing phase of my engineering section B of AMI. With that, the moment I clear the examination, I'm an engineering graduate. For all equivalents in Indian government's education system, AMI is equivalent to an engineer, a regular engineering degree. So I was writing my examination. By then, the call letter came from Air Force Academy. I requested my commanding officer to hold me till I complete my examination. So he listened patiently because he happened to be an engineer. Said, okay, fine, no problem. We'll just uh, give some suitable reason to headquarters. But you will be joining, we'll be giving a confirmation that you will be joining there after the examination. And that's it. Once I'm prepared to join Air Force Academy and enthusiastic to go back again to Air Force for the officer training. On the other side, I am going to be an engineer in 2 months. I've written my examination. Well, I've joined Air Force Academy in 77 ground duty officers course. By then, my result for engineering has also come. This is the second turning point in my life that I had been a diploma engineer. I'm now a degree engineer. I have some experience on aero engines and aircraft. Why can't be I a technical officer of Indian Air Force? So I decided to change my branch. I discussed with my senior officers. This is okay. There is no precedence, but no harm. You can be a story. You can be the history in future. So apply. I applied for change of branch. Actually, change of branch in the Air Force is not acceptable when you are full-fledged subject to Air Force Act. But when you are a cadet, you are guided by separate training rules, but not subject to Air Force Act in totality, and are not subject to those rules and regulations which are applied to regular officers or regular airmen. Well, so my application went to Air Headquarters. There are a lot of considerations and discussions between different branches, and finally, a approval came to Air Force Academy saying that change of branch with respect to Flight Cadet Chattopadhyay is hereby approved, and the flight cadet may be directed to Air Force Technical College to join 28 Aeronautical Engineering course. And the ground military training must cease. With this instruction from Air Headquarters, Air Force Academy left me with a movement order and warrant. I packed my luggage, joined Air Force Technical College in 1985, August.
The third destination.
Our destination.
Mhm.
Now, when I joined there, this was the 8th week of my course mates. My course mates have already undergone 7 weeks of training, and by then I have landed up there. Some are wondering who is this joker coming from where? All these different stories is why now, why not later, why not in the next course? So many people started triggering many questions, but then answers are straight away given from the headquarters. Look, what you were training in the first few months is a ground training he has already done twice. He has done in flying. He has done his from Air Force Administrative College. What
Yeah.
ground training? And and it happened to be in the first 6 months of training, I became the topper.
Hmm.
In spite of joining in the 8th week of my training, I happened to be the topper. But then before entering into the training, there was another hurdle. Another barrier, a signal came from air headquarters saying that Flight Cmde Chattopadhyay to be routed to Air Force Selection Board, Mysore.
Third SSB.
Third SSB, third time SSB. And people were actually, okay, the commandant had no other option but to push me to the Air Force um, Selection Board, Mysore, because this was a very clear-cut instruction. When I landed there in the Air Force Selection Board, the president of the selection board, and of course, the GTO, the psychologists, others have interviewed me. Why are you coming now, single isolated man? Because normally they are tuned to see a bunch of people coming together and selecting from a large bunch, few.
Yeah.
But this time you are the sole candidate coming all the way for selection. What is this? So they tried to know everything, and they fed the entire information to president. President invited, called me, and all of them, of course, the GTO, psychologist, interviewer, others, the president of the board. I narrated the whole story. They were just amazed, spellbound, mesmerized to hear the story of the changes from airman to flying, back to airman, and then growing as a graduate, coming to Air Force Air Force Academy as administrative officers training, and then parallelly completing engineering, and now coming to technical branch, and he's being recruited. So the president was, very furious in that signal. Show me the signal. He was furious in the sense, what nonsense. The cadet has already undergone 2 times SSB, and every time he has been selected, and every time he has been inducted into training. Now his approval for change of branch has been given, and he has joined for Air Force Technical College. What is the purpose of conducting an SSB? But yes, I agree that he is joining an engineering training institute. So for that, an EKT, engineering knowledge test, has to be done, and we will administer that test to him. And then he spoke to air headquarters, not of course in my presence, and followed by a signal. All the clarification came in that day itself. Yes, okay, EKT is enough, nothing else, no further SSB. So EKT was done, and the next morning I was told, okay, fine, you have cleared the EKT, you will go back to Air Force Technical College and start your training. When I joined Air Force Technical College, this is the 8th week of the training of 28 SC. Well, training goes on. In the first 6 months, the ground training subjects and all that, again, I stand to be the topper of the course. Margin of about 150 marks between, out of 1500 marks in the first course, 150 marks gap between the first and number 2.
And you had probably people with MTech degree doing the course in your course.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And thereafter, the technical session, technical training, phase 2, phase 3, final phases. And with all that, I was actually heading for the topper of the course and, of course, the soul. But unfortunately, after the jungle training, the day I came back from my jungle training, that was towards the end of my course or training at Air Force Technical College. I saw a telegram hanging on my door. Father Sirius comes soon. Just the first time in so many days, the last 6 years I've been in Air Force, this is the only telegram I have received where says Father Sirius. I knew that there is something serious. I could smell it. But unfortunately, in those days, mobile was not there. My village doesn't have telephone. My home doesn't have telephone. I had no way but to start. I had to discuss with my senior instructors. So this is what it is. No, no, no. How can you go? Your passing out is just about 15 days, man. And you are heading for the sword of honor. You have to practice. You have to be in the parade. You have to be the parade commander for passing out. And this is the ritual. This is the tradition of all military training institutes. I said, sir, please grant me to go. Let me go and see. Well, on 1st of January, after the class, I was granted some 5 days casual leave. And one of my coursemate dropped me at Bangalore airport, flew in the night. Early morning, when I went to my home, it was the 5th day. My father had expired already. It was the 5th day. Immediately, after changing my clothes, etc., I had to go back to post office, sending a telegram to my commander, Air Force Technical College. Sir, father has already expired. Kindly grant me extension for another 6 days to complete the rituals. Well, they granted. Reply came, yes, granted, but please join at least by this date, 1 day before passing out, so that you pass out. Otherwise, you'll be losing another 6 months. So it was very crucial and turning point. I had to somehow, by begged money, borrowed, and then bought ticket from Kolkata, flew back to Bangalore, and then reached just 48 hours before passing out. So when I go to the parade ground next morning, dressed up, my CGSTI and others tell me that, look, boy, you have lost the soul. Whatever may be the reason, bad luck. Rest of the trophies, best in course, chief of best of medal, best in AM, all these will be available to you, but not the soul. And you are passing out of the course. I said, oh, all right, sir. Unfortunately, there was a deviation because in spite of being a topper, I could not be present during the entire process of last phases of interview, the last phases of passing out parade practices, etc. So I missed it out. I missed it out, but no problem. But still, I remain as number one of the course. And I passed out as first pilot officer to land up into Mirage 2000. With my result, I was posted to Gwalior, the premier base, the pride of Indian Air Force in those days in 1985, landed Mirage 2000, and it was 1987. 2 years by then, 40 engineers and 40 pilots have already been trained in France, and I'm the only engineer who had been trained in Indian Air Force Technical College, to be the young engineering officer. I never knew that one day I will be sitting the top of the engineering post at that base. I never knew. But I had my zeal to work with the technicians to learn the aircraft, because even the technicians have been trained in France, airframe fitter, engine fitters. I used to sit with them because the senior officers or engineers were very busy because there had been some new technical problems in Mirage 2000 in those days, and some cracks, etc., etc. Some retrofit programs started, all these. So the seniors were quite busy, but I had to learn the aeroplane. And the MCF has the conversion course for Mirage 2000 was yet to start for the first course. So after spending about 6 months with the aeroplane, with working with the sergeants, airframe fitter, engine fitter, select fitter, radar fitter, learning about the new trade system altogether. It's a different trade system than conventional trade system of Indian Air Force. So who does what, how it does, what are the ground equipments, what are these facilities, how does it work? And I used to come morning, afternoon, evening, wherever there's a work going on in the central repair CR and SS, I used to be with them. In fact, there are some places I can even count the number of rivets in that particular panel. and how many, what is marked, which panel is marked red. Okay, so that is the kind of involvement of mine along with the aircraft. And soon the course started. After completion of MCF, I, of course, became flying officer. And within a year's time, I became flight lieutenant 2 by 89. And by then, 1989, I'm a flight lieutenant. I'm also cleared for, giving ground on Mirage 2000. So far, the ground on were given by the three engineers who have been trained in France, or two engine fitters who have been trained in France. Now, I am the sixth element in Air Force Station Gwalior, added to give ground on, including afterburn. So it was a very, very powerful engine, very, very powerful aircraft, and all kind of safety precautions. So I learned. And that's how I grew. I got married in 1989. I grew in Air Force Station Gwalior, moved from wing to the squadron, and worked with the squadron, back to wing. And now 7 years passed. After 7 years, I was posted to Air Force Station Kanpur for BRD or Mirage engine overall preparation, because Mirage engines were becoming due for overall in the next 2 years' time. So there were a lot of preliminary works to be done at for BRD, because preparation of installation of equipment, then selection of people. Of course, selection of people is the P staff's responsibility. But preparing the place of work, what facilities will be set where, who will install. Some facilities would come from France, some facilities would come from so-and-so company from India. So all these, coordinating. I was with my senior wing commander at that time, ex-Mirage again. He was trained in France on the aero engine system. I was with him. And by then, within 1 year time, I completed my entrance examination for MTech program, postgraduate engineering program. Entrance exam I cleared, and I got selected for the MTech program. I joined Delhi University and left Kanpur for 2 years. I was in Delhi working in engineering university, studying MTech program. It is a study leave. My salutes to Indian Air Force. Yes, I had problems. I had difficulties in life. I was grounded. My dreams were shattered. Now my dreams are gradually rising. And I've been given the opportunity to grow as an MTech engineer. Well, I completed my post-graduation engineering and now posted back to Gwalior in the prestigious Tiger Squadron, #1 Squadron, which has a very, very rich history in Indian Air Force. I was proud to be the Mirages as senior engineering officer of Tiger Squadron. This was yet another proud moment for me. 3 years, lot of detachments, lot of operations, and major operation was Kargil. My aircraft were modified to participate in Kargil war, to bomb, to drop the bombs. The bombs were modified. The systems were modified to drop those bombs in Dras, Batalik, and come back safely to the base. Well, Kargil was over. I joined Air Force Staff College. That is, there are two ways of doing Staff College. One is Defense Services Staff College at Wellington. The other is the Technical Staff Course, which is done in DIT Pune. Equal course, equal validity, equal importance. Well, after 1 year of my course at DIT Pune, I joined at Central Air Command to look after Sea Edge Command Engineering Jaguar and Mirage, because I am also qualified by then on Jaguar aircraft. I worked well. By then, already there are three commendations in my pocket. I've been add-on by Indian Air Force with 2 commendations from the CNC and one commendation from the Chief of Air Staff. On completion of 3 years of my command tenure, I was posted as instructor in Air Force Institute of Flight Safety. Very first thing, I had to undergo the aircraft accident investigation course and parallelly worked as instructor. Within 3 years, I thought that there was a need for setting up crash lab to simulate the situations of crash and post-crash from the evidence available in the crash site. How can one investigator assimilate facts to find out what had been wrong in that flight? Sometimes the aircrew may not be available to give statements on facts. Maybe it was fatal. So the evidences that are available in the cockpit or voice recording or the communications through ATC and the site of the incident or accident will speak enough. So I suggested the formation of a crash lab in IFS, and I worked for it. Of course, a lot of works had gone on in my presence. Subsequently, my tenure was over. By then, I've also cleared my DGCS license to be an aeronautical engineer in civil aviation. I applied for a change to civil life from Air Force, but Air Force didn't agree. In 2004, 2005, there had been multiple crashes of Mirage 2000 in Gwalior. And that is the time, actually, Indian Air Force were looking for the experienced senior people and all experienced people back to Gwalior. So I was confirmed that I am going back to Gwalior from IFS as Mirage 2000 Tetra School Commanding Officer. I landed up there as Wing Commander. Well, trained pilots, engineers, and that time the challenging decision of Indian Air Force of JIT FLM training pattern change. I had to work a lot to make the training schedules. Well, that also passed on. Finally, in 2009, as Group Captain, I'm posted back to Air Headquarters in Directorate of Training as Director of Training. This is the time, there's again a change of my life. A beautiful opportunity came into my way. I was selected as one of the officers to go to Bangladesh to work as a professor under Bangladesh University of Professional while working in Indian High Commission, but within Bangladesh military. It was a great challenge to set up aeronautical engineering where they had nothing. We had to start from scratches, books, library, facility, establishing various labs, study materials, notes, practicals, all were designed. And in 3 years' time, Thursday, I remember a date, 12th December 2012. As a design project, my students under my guidance, because I taught them aerodynamics, propulsion, aircraft controls, and design, my students dared a venture to fabricate a new aircraft under my guidance as a project. And on 12/12/12, training aircraft in the name of MIST X1, almost 27 feet long, 15 feet wide, and 9 feet high, was made and placed on MIST, Military Institute of Science and Technology Stadium, when I was in the front cockpit and my commandant, Brigadier General of MIST, was behind me to start rolling the aircraft in Bangladesh. This was a very, very turning point for Bangladesh, and the local newspapers on that particular day flooded with the news. The first indigenous aircraft is made in Bangladesh. Names of all Bangladeshi officers, students came up with, of course, special mention of our names as Indian instructor, Group Captain Chattopadhyay, and Wing Commander Nikhil Verma had associated actively to make this program a success in Bangladesh, for which Bangladesh Air Force Chief of Air Staff awarded both of us commendation. This is the third Chief of Air Staff's commendation in, in addition to the two Air Sciences commendation. So with 3 years of my Bangladesh training, my tenure was over and I was posted to the hotbed of Gwalior, and the most important post for engineer in any flying base is the chief engineering officer. Extremely hot. 100 fighter planes. It was a very, very hectic time in my life. Very, very challenging, but all said and done, it was very, very thrilling experience in my life that yes, if I could grow from pilot officer to the group captain of the same base, and in fact, I've spent 15 years in Mirages in different, all my ranks, pilot officer, flying officer, flight lieutenant, squad leader, wing commander, and group captain, all my ranks I've served the Mirages. My experience paid me, and my hard work paid me. I was promoted to Air Commodore on completion of a 2 year tenure as Chief Engineering Officer of Gwalior. I was posted to the prestigious place of National Aircraft Program, LCA Tejas, as Principal Director, Aircraft Maintenance. I was basically working as the connector between the producer, the designer, and the user. Air Force is the user, ADA is the designer, and HAL is the producer. So, having understood the aircraft operation, and in fact, LCA Tejas is control-wise, operational-wise, system-wise, it is akin to Mirage 2000. Having understood the problems of aircraft Mirage 2000, and in the new designs of LCA Tejas, I had to barge in my ways many times, tell the designer, please modify this design, because this design won't work. There had been failures in Mirage 2000. Look, producer, HL, there are problems, your pipes are butting, and there will be rubbing, there will be some dangerous emergency hydraulic leak. The aircraft will crash, or maybe going for an emergency. Please make some gaps. So this kind of involvement, looking at what will be the impact of this aircraft in the Air Force, how beautifully and how easily the Air Force can accept and adopt the new aircraft so that there is no challenge in maintenance or operation. Well, unfortunately, my time for superannuation approached, and I was 1957. I was 57 years age, and this was 2016 September. I have completed 57 years of age. As per rules of Indian Air Force, I had to leave way for my youngsters to fill my place so that I can quit and the younger generation can grow and come up to my place. Post-retirement, I joined an engineering college here as a professor, as to guide people to how to join Air Force, Army, Navy. And today I have my own coaching center called Grand Success Training Academy, where I train students from class 6 to 12 how to join NDA, how to join TES, Technical Entry Scheme in Army or Indian Navy, and give them the core studies of math, science, and guide them towards that, including the guidance of SSB, because I don't think any officer of Indian Air Force has got this kind of experience in multiple SSB and seen in multiple times. Many of my students are good engineers, good doctors, and few of them have joined NDA and Army, Indian Army as officer in the last 4 or 5 years. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to speak about myself. Well, this was purely my assessment. If anybody else has any kind of assimilation or understanding, It is his perception or view, but this is what the crude and the practical thing that has happened in my life. I've just narrated.
I'm sure in the history of Indian Air Force, there wouldn't have been a similar story like yours. It has been a life with full of so many challenges, so many ups and downs. I'm saying that you had taken each and every challenge as an opportunity to climb up with a bigger josh or to face the situation head on. And I think you have proved to be a very big hero. Before I end this particular session, I would like to say that if you have a little fire, then we are here to help you. In case you feel that you are stuck with your dreams to join Indian Air Force, you are requested to contact me on this WhatsApp number. We will try to find a way how to give wings to your dream.